And we're live. Hey guys, Tasha here. Welcome to Whiskey, Wine, and Writing.
And I'm Nikki Roberti, and today we have two great special guests for Valentine's Day week, where we're celebrating critique partners. And we have Kim Graff and Maria Green. They will introduce themselves now. Kim can go first.
We're used to one guest for the record, not two, so we have to learn how to balance this.
Well, I'm Kim Graff. I'm a young adult author represented by Carrie Pastorito of Prospect Agency. I have also been interning in the industry for a while. I started out as the personal assistant to Jennifer Albin, the best-selling author of the Cruel trilogy, and then I moved on to working as an intern at PS Literary. And then after that, I went to Asteria Press, and after that, I am currently the intern to Bree Ogden at Dephoria Literary Agency.
And take it away, Maria.
She's pretty impressive, but so I'm Maria. I am critique partner with Kim. Let's see, my debut novel came out last year in August through Asteria Press, and it's a YA contemporary. And other than that, I am a freelance editor with Kim over at Wild Things, and I'm still writing, but I think I'm going to switch to adult thrillers. So that's what I'm working on now.
Ooh, that's exciting. We both really love the thrillers, don't we, Tasha?
Yeah, we do. So that's what Redemption is. Redemption is actually a romantic thriller, and I was telling Nikki, I don't know how I wound up in romance. I used to write nothing but urban fantasy, and then I just kind of like fell into the romantic suspense genre, and I love it. I
wrote sci-fi, but apparently only my agent picked me for YA contempt, and that's what I'm going to write for the rest of my life. Hopefully. I'm a terrible sci-fi writer. My imagination is not good for spaceships. So, can you guys tell us a little bit about, how you guys met? Because you guys are in two different locations, but have this great working relationship. How did that come about, and around when?
Well, I guess I kind of bullied Kim into swapping manuscripts with me. It was during, and I can't even remember which pitch party contest thing, and I saw her pitch, and I just tweeted her and said, "You have to let me read that." So we switched, and then we started talking all the time.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. I think it was Pit Mad, and I think it was December.
I'm just putting that out there. She's like, yeah, that's how it happened. She bullied me.
It's true. What did we say? Was it December 2013?
December 13.
2013, yeah. And yeah, she's very, I don't know if anyone follows her on Twitter, but she's a very friendly person on Twitter. So she just threw out there that she wanted to read the manuscript, and I had just finished it, so I could have used another set of eyes on it. And I gave it to her, and she's really thorough with her feedback, and she was working on an adult thriller it was up my alley, kind of about a serial killer, and I love that type of story, so we swapped, and we really clicked.
That's amazing.
And then we started DMing each other all the time, and then exchanged numbers, and now we work together.
That's great. And then your editing business started together last year, correct?
Yes. We were both freelance editing separately, and then we decided it would be a lot easier if we just combined forces and did all the advertising work together. And so far it's worked really well.
That's awesome. So for some people, I think some people who are starting out in writing don't really understand exactly what critique partnering is, and they're like CPing versus beta reading versus my mother-in-law trying to read my book. What would you say is the definition of a good critique partner?
Oh gosh. I guess starters, they have to be honest, because you can give it to your husband, your mother, and they're just going to tell you they love it, and Kim will always point out what needs to be changed, and that's really important to actually have the honest feedback.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. A critique partner is, and at least I view a critique partner as someone that's going to work with you through the manuscript. They'll give you feedback, and then you can bounce ideas back and forth with them. Whereas the difference between like a beta reader is a beta reader will like read an early version and then just give you generalized feedback, where a critique partner might go line by line and be like, this is a really good line. This line needs to be destroyed. And Maria's really good at that. She's really good at line editing and finding where like there's no tension in the manuscript and saying, well, you need to get rid of that. Plus, our writing styles are pretty similar. So I feel like that really helps us figure out each other's writing.
That's awesome.
Wild Things edits, you said?
Yes, Wild Things editing.
Editing. All right, that's awesome. I do want to say hi, Lane. Hi, Em. Em is actually one of my CP partners, and Lane is a very faithful viewer. She's here every week with us. So hi, ladies.
And feel free for everyone who's watching, if you have a question on critique partnering or even about these lovely authors personally, whether it's about their books or their careers or editing, whatever you want, and within reason, obviously. Just, you know, tweet us or leave a...
Nothing too personal, guys. Nothing too
don't be, like, I mean, I think as personal as you can get his favorite ice cream flavor. I mean, it's let's not give too much away here. So,
Raquel's also here now. Hi, Raquel.
I love that people are checking in. Thank you for letting us know you're here and that we're not talking to the abyss. I do appreciate it.
Oh, come on, Nikki. Talking to the abyss is fun. The things it says back is just great. I'm a little crazy. It's okay. See, I love creeping her out. It's great.
Remember, you write adult, I write YA, so I get scared easily.
Yeah, I know. We actually had a whole stalking conversation on her Twitter one day. Oh, yeah, the relationship of CPs, guys, can be really, really strange. It's okay.
Yeah, we know that.
I feel like you guys were saying, where you guys, you know, talk regularly now. It's not just, you know, sending a manuscript with notes. It's you DM, you have a real relationship now. How important?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think that's pretty important. I feel like once Maria and I got to know each other a lot better as like just people, we were able to be a lot more honest about things that we didn't particularly like in each other's manuscripts. Because when you're starting out a relationship, you don't want to be too critical. But once you are well established and you know you're not going to really hurt the other person's feeling, then you can be more critical about what they wrote and be like, as much as I love you, this isn't working.
Have you ever gotten advice from one of you guys where it's like, wow, that was really, really honest?
I feel like we do that every day with each other, so with our manuscripts, we're pretty used to it.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, did you guys have like failed critique partners before each other? Like, how did that process go? Did you try to critique with other people and it just didn't work out, or you know, how did that go for you guys?
I've definitely had unpleasant, like beta experiences. At least I wouldn't really call them critique partners, but when you like exchange a manuscript and then you read through their entire manuscript and then they never get back to you about your manuscript type situation. So I think a really good thing to do is only like swap the first few chapters of a manuscript. That way you both know that it's going to work out. And I think we did that when we first.
I don't remember. I believe you.
Yeah, I think by then I had learned my lesson, and we switched out like the first 3 chapters of our manuscripts, and then it worked out, and then we sent the entire manuscript.
Nice. Yeah, and I learned my lesson before Kim too. I had an experience like that where I did a lot more than I got back, and so I don't do that anymore.
So it's really important to have a very balanced relationship, you would say, then.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. Because some people do more line editing than I do, and I just don't feel comfortable with that severe of a critique sometimes, like when they'll change each word and change around the grammar or the sentence structure, which is fine for some people, but I'd rather that not happen when I'm switching manuscripts with people. So the fact that Marie and I do pretty much the same level of inline critiques really smooths our relationship out.
Well, how many?
absolutely.
So, you can go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just agreeing with her. I mean, it's really true because, you know, I think we really got more into it too, just getting more in depth with each other the longer we've known each other. But I mean, we don't like change every sentence to make it our own, which is really frustrating when that happens. So I mean, we mark what's really good at the same time, and I think we've really like over time figured out how we work best with each other.
Yeah.
Do you have
I
other
think
partners, or are you guys the main, like you're each other's main go-to people?
I have 3 regular other critique partners, I would say. One person is big into young adult horror. Well, 2 of them are into young adult horror, and that's kind of one of my favorite things to write. So it was important to me to like have an established relationship with 2 people that are really well, I guess not well established, but that they know the genre really well. And then I have another friend that I met through the Society of Children's Books Writers and Illustration that I swap with. But I'd probably say Maria is my go-to girl because I'll just send her random ideas too and get her opinion on it, whereas I would mostly just send them manuscripts. But yeah, when I'm having a crisis of what to focus on next, Maria gets a lot of emails, really long emails.
And follow-up texts. Yeah, and I'm the same. I have 3 other critique partners, but Kim's definitely, I mean, my go-to main one. And while I appreciate everyone else and everybody gives me different information and different feedback, Kim usually is the most in-depth with all of the edits, and I mean, she's always my go-to girl.
That's awesome. I think 3 is like the magic number because my critique group, we meet every Sunday via Skype because we're in all different parts of the world, not even just like the country. We're in all different parts of the world. So we meet every Sunday via Skype, and there's 4 of us total, and every week we alternate whose turn it is to bring a chapter or a short story or whatever, and we go through it, and they send it a week early, and we go through it, and we sit down and we talk, and we tell them what's working, what's not working, and go off on a dozen rants.
I mean, what good is a CP partner if you can't rant for a while? That's what I say.
Definitely.
Do you guys, what about querying and stuff? Because I mean, it's one thing I think to really bounce ideas off and dig into the manuscript together. But do you ever, go into the battle trenches together? I know you're represented, Kim, so I don't remember if that was before you guys said you met or not. But
the manuscript that I got represented on is actually the manuscript that Maria first critiqued. So I could say that she had a lot to do with it.
So fantastic.
But yeah, when I was in the query trenches, I definitely talked to Maria about every step a lot of the way because I feel like anyone that's been querying knows how extremely stressful and unpleasant of an experience it can be. So being able to have like a group of other writers that know what it's like really helps the situation. And I know I sent her like mock-up queries probably 1,000 times before I actually started querying.
Yeah, and I still send Kim my queries and make her help because she's really good at stakes, and I'm not as good.
That's the great thing about having a CP. It's generally a complement relationship where they're a little bit stronger in an area than you are, and you're a little bit stronger in an area than they are. At least that's what I've noticed. So.
Yeah, I think that's really true. Maria plays off things that I'm not a very good atmospheric or setting writer, but Maria's very good at that stuff, so she can always pinpoint parts when my manuscript is weakest in those areas. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really true.
Definitely. It's all about balance and helping each other out of our weak points.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I'm also
Right, go ahead. Sure. Go ahead, Kim.
I'm also one of those weird writers that really likes query letters. So I like it when Maria sends me her blurbs and queries so that I can mess with them.
I'm the same way. I could read query letters and pitches. I think they're the coolest thing.
I know, I love them.
I let her write mine if she wants.
I might have done that for some people before, but I love it so much. It's like, and I sometimes think with, it's great having someone who knows your book almost as well as you do, but they're not as close to the book as you are. They can, generally capture the essence of the book for a query better than like I could,
Walrus is not funny, Em. No, not funny. Stop it. You're mean. Sorry, CP joke. She knows what she's doing. She knows it. I had a question and made me forget. I'm sorry. Yeah, I lost it. I'm trying to think of what it was. Go, Nikki, go.
Go. How, for someone who, maybe they've been struggling to find a CP, and they haven't gotten so lucky to just, have that aha moment with someone on the internet or in a group, how would you suggest they slowly work their way through to screening potential CPs? Like, where should they look? What should they ask for at the beginning? And how should they proceed with caution, or if they should go full steam ahead? That was a really long question. I think
all, except for Maria. Maria was the first, like, truly random person that I connected with that worked out through Twitter. But all the other ones that my other critique partners, one of them was somebody that I really admired her blog, and we interacted a lot through blogging, and then we decided to switch out manuscripts. So I think, following writers on blogs is a good idea, because then you can see if your writing style is similar and if you get along. Or the other person that I connected with was through the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, so joining an organization that's just right for whatever niche you work for is a really good idea, because then you at least know that you're writing the same type of manuscript, and if they're part of that organization, then they're probably really motivated to become a better writer, and that's usually the best type of critique partner to have, is somebody that actually wants to grow with every book that they write. So those are my two suggestions. Or find a random person on Twitter. That worked out really well.
Yes. And now, while Kim is, way more organized and thoughtful about it, of my 3 others, I found 2 on Twitter randomly as well. One I just offered to beta for anyone, and the relationship just grew and grew. And another one, I loved her pitch, just like Kim. In my last one, I actually was not on Twitter, but I did meet through a writers group that I started on Facebook, and we, just like him and I, we started to really like each other, when we were talking, and we got to the point where we realized that we both really like each other's writing, and we had swapped short items, and then we finally decided to be critique partners and switch bigger items and really go to each other. Not as much as Kim and I, but almost. And but as far as like the diving right in or going in slowly, I absolutely suggest to go slowly. Swap a couple chapters, maybe swap a short story, because if your editing styles don't match, that can be a problem. Like if one over edits, or someone just doesn't get what you're going for, or anything like that, it can be a real issue. And when you want to work together, even if you like each other, it doesn't always work. So I think that going in slowly is really the way to go.
I think that's really valid. I definitely, when I was first looking for critique partners myself, it was so interesting to see how different people's takes on the same thing were. And how some people can really get your writing and your style, and even just how you are receptive to criticism as a person, whereas other people will be like completely opposite of you, and you're like, what have you done to my book? Why are we even talking? And
I'm kind of like Kim. I don't like people changing my sentences for me. Generally, when I'm working with my critique partners, what we do is we put suggestions and the notes on the side. And be like, this isn't technically grammatically correct, or this is passive, you can try something like this. We give suggestions, but we don't just go into the manuscript and change everything. So I don't like that. I'm with you guys on that.
Definitely what I prefer too. Yeah. When you open up a manuscript and you see all this red and changes and stuff, it just makes me nervous.
I don't like if I missed a word or a comma or something, like you know how when you're typing and you know you missed 4 or something like that, and so they just write 4 in there for you, and it's in red. Okay, yeah, I get that. I missed the word, but no, I don't want full sentences in red.
Yeah.
I just got a message from one of my lovely CPs, Emily, Newfangled Housewife on Twitter. Check her out. She's fantastic. She's watching, so hello, Emily.
Hi, Emily.
And I've got to say, I value her as a CP because she's one of the only people who've read probably 7 drafts of the same book I've written, and I think that's a great quality of CP. Is being really good. So thank you, Emily. This one's for you.
Yeah, I think Maria read the manuscript that got me my agent at least 6 times. And
But I love it. It's totally worth it. I love it.
That's insane. Speaking of reading stuff, my critique group, which is E.L. Wicker, Kathy Palm, and Diana Pingisha, have offered, and I'll put this on the blog tomorrow so people can enter, but I'm just going to put this out there tonight. They've offered to do a first 250 critique. So we're going to put up a competition for that, and they're going to go through your 250 and help you get it ready for all the upcoming competitions. So that'll be on the blog tomorrow. Keep an eye out for it. They are awesome.
And while we're talking about CPs and how to find them, Tasha has organized a great CP classifieds thing that we've been hosting on whiskeyWineWriting.com. If you go there, you can fill out an application. We'll post your classifieds, kind of like a dating app, because, I mean, if you think about it, it's like dating. You're trying to find the perfect match to your book and your writing style, and we can let you know if people are interested in what you're working on.
And we also leave the Twitter up. I know some people have already connected via Twitter. They've seen the person's Twitter handle. So when you go to the website, there is actually a tab for it now right across the top. So there's CP Classifieds. Remember to click on the older posts, too. I know it only shows 1. So when you click on the older one, just keep going down. I started numbering them and giving them nifty titles. So go through, see if one matches yours, or make your own, or do both. Try out one and make your own ad. You know, there's no stipulation of having to do one or the other.
So, because I know you guys both live in different places, have you guys actually ever met up, some CPing and working together?
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I met her in Minneapolis, where she lives. I don't know, how long ago was that? That was before I moved up to Montreal.
It was in the early summer.
It was in the summer. Yeah. Yeah. And, yeah, it was fun. Do you have something more intelligent to say than that?
Not necessarily. I don't know. We hung out for the weekend, and she stayed with me, and I could have been a serial killer, so it worked out well.
So did you guys just kind of binge on, you know, writing stuff, or did you actually leave and go and do something?
We went to the Mall of America.
So it's mostly binging on writing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Awesome.
It was actually a really helpful experience because I had just gotten a revise and resubmit request from the agent that I'd eventually signed for. So since she knew the story so well, it was really helpful to just be able to talk it out with her, and I doubt I would have been able to revise the novel as well as I had if I hadn't had like this great epiphany that I had with her that weekend about something that happened to one of the main characters. So I credit that weekend for me signing with my agent, pretty much.
So awesome and super sweet. I love that there's that like mind. Like, I recently was working on a revision myself, and I was seriously just battering my head against the wall trying to figure out how to fix a certain thing with a character. And my friend Emily had been busy and gone for a while, and she finally gets on Skype after not seeing her for a while, and within 5 seconds we fixed the whole problem. It was amazing. And it's like you have those people who just get your brain, and you can just spitball things, and you don't feel stupid talking about your made-up world that you've been dedicating so many hours to in the dark. It's great. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I just described writing in a very creepy way. I apologize to all the writers out there. But,
we've said worse on this show, Nikki. I mean, we really have.
So tell us a little bit more about the freelance editing. So we know you guys like critique and edit for yourselves, but how did you get into the professional side of it?
Maria, do you want to take that
one? Basically, we would rather be writing and editing all the time than have day jobs, and we're decent at editing. And we decided to join up together because, like Kim said, we get to split the work for all the promotion, which is not my favorite part. So it's nice to be able to share that work, and yeah, we just like to always be reading, editing, and writing. So the more we get to do it, the better.
Yep, and we both had experience. She was an editor for one of her papers on campus. I've been with a couple different literary agencies and Asteria Press, and then she has the experience of being a published author. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, you guys are like a publishing powerhouse here. It's like,
right?
You're like the it couple of CPs right here, guys.
Nice that.
Actually, can you tell us a little bit about interning at literary agencies? I think that's so fascinating.
Yeah, I love it. When I was at PS Literary, I was mostly the social media and digital intern, which meant I worked on random digital projects for Carly Watters and Maria Vincent. And I managed the Twitter, Tumblr, and Pinterest account for PS Literary, which was an experience. It's very time-consuming to be on that many social media platforms, but Carly and Maria also knew I was really interested in getting more editorial experience, so they allowed me to read through manuscripts, do some copy editing, and read a report, and really figure out the inner workings of an agency. And then working with Bree Ogden right now, I am learning so much about just the entirety of being a literary agent. I get to see a lot of query letters. I get to see what her clients are working on, what manuscript she's requesting. I get to read through some of them and write up reader reports. It's very interesting. There's a lot of reading involved, and takes up quite a bit of time, but I really love doing it.
That's really cool. I guess as editors too, that must be really handy because I mean, as a published author and you have an agent, but you've also worked with agents, you're really seeing what it's like for the industry now, and you can help your writers get to that next level since you're seeing it from the behind the scenes point of view.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's a big asset. It helps me figure out what's actually going on behind the scenes and what's selling right now, what's not selling, what catches an agent's attention in a huge query slush file, what doesn't. And then Maria knows how to get it published because she actually has a book out there in the world.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your book, Maria? How did that process happen for you?
Sure. It's actually kind of one of those ones where I hate to say that anyone is ever the exception, but it was my first manuscript. However, the different thing about that is it took me over 10 years to finish it, which I'm never doing again.
Time management skills have been learned.
It took way too long. But the thing about it is that it's really different, which is why it took so long. And, Kim read it and all of my CPs read it, and it took a lot of time. But and since it's so different, it just wasn't really the perfect manuscript for most agents, if any agent. And so I went directly to small presses, which I still want an agent, and that's my next step. But for that one particular manuscript, the right step was to go for a small press, and they loved it, and I got a full request immediately, and then we signed. But it's a YA contemporary, and it's told with poetry and journal entries and prose, so it's really different.
Oh wow, that I can understand why that would take a while to write, because I can only imagine that doing it that way you had a lot to keep track of and balance out to keep everything fluid within the book.
Oh yeah, it took a lot of time. I started with the poems, and then I added the journals, and then I added the prose. So it was like I didn't even write it from beginning to end, which is how I normally do it, so it made it even harder.
Wow. So do you have another book coming out, or? And by the way, what is the name of this book so that people can go and buy it?
It's called In the Rear View, and it's on pretty much all ebook formats, and it's out through Estrella Press.
We have a link to it on whiskeywineWriting.com, so everyone should seriously go ahead, go to our website, and go buy the book. Because I actually have a copy, and I haven't finished it yet, but I love it. Like, I'm just so excited about it, and I can't wait to finish it.
That's awesome.
I think it's great when people do like creative things in writing, because I think sometimes it can feel like books are just following a formula, and it isn't a formula. It's just this beautiful book of its own that's just fantastic.
That you want to be half the time while you're writing it.
I can't imagine writing a book for 10 years, so I think you're now my hero for that. I think you should like a record.
It should not take that long.
But so that's cool though that you're published and you went through a small press, but you still want an agent too. I think that's cool how everyone's writer journey is so different, and I mean there's no right or wrong way to do it, and that's just really, I think that's really cool, because I have a friend who's been looking at the small pubs recently, and they're just so fascinating. They're just a really cool group there.
Yeah, the only thing is just make sure you do your research on the small pubs, because some of them are kind of shady, so you definitely want to make sure you're going with the one that's reputable.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It takes as much, if not more, research than researching agents, because sometimes going with too small of a press can kind of set you back, and so you really have to do your research.
Yeah.
And so was Kim CPing that manuscript too for a while? Is that what you guys were saying?
I didn't CP that one before she got the book deal. I CP'd her adult thriller. That's kind of like American Psycho meets Dexter.
Ooh.
And once she got the book deal, she had to go through a few rounds of like copy editing, and that's when she gave me the book to read so that I could be like another pair of eyes to make sure there weren't any mistakes. And I really love the book. I think third-person narration is one of the most hard, like, difficult things to write well and with voice, and I thought she did it really well with that book. So there was really nothing to critique aside from finding, like, I maybe found 20 errors in the entire book, maybe.
And some of them were formatting, so.
Yeah.
Maria, I write third person. I try to write first person, and I just have the hardest time with it.
I think third person's so hard. I respect any author that can do that.
I can't do third person either. I'm the same way. I'm like, wow, it's amazing. And it's like I just have to write like my head, because I'm basically like a schizophrenic writer. So I have to get to that.
M says, E.L. Wicker, she says that, yeah, I agree about Tasha's warning on the small press. I got 2 full requests but chose not to as I couldn't find enough information to commit.
Yeah.
M actually wound up self-publishing Fractured Immortal. Fantastic novel. I was lucky enough to be a CP on it. Love it! So make sure you go buy that one too. We're going to give you a bunch of books to go buy. Go buy them.
And we got a comment from Kathy Palm, and she says, finding the right CP is so important. Writers everywhere connect. And I agree. And I love that we're doing this kind of episode the week of Valentine's Day, because I think people get caught up way too much in the lovey-dovey stuff, when really it's the person.
Yeah, that's why we were like, no, we don't want to do like, a romance thing. As much as we love romance, I write romance, so I love romance, but it's like everybody does that, so let's do something different. So that's why we opted for the CP Love Week. So we're really, really glad you guys could come on and talk with us about it. It's amazing. And for the record, Kathy's one of my CPs too. She's one of my Sunday group people. She actually just signed with Roots Publishing. So
congratulations, Kathy.
Yeah, that's great. A great publisher.
So since we're talking about Valentine's Day, let's switch over to best presents for your CP. I never, thought you could give someone who reads your book 1,000 times presents, but it happened. The first time I got one was my friend Emily. I stayed up all night to read her book before because she got a full request, and I just copy edited the whole thing in one night, and she sent me the biggest bouquet of flowers, and she wrote me, she goes, I didn't really think ahead of time about what I wrote in the card because it called me the master cutter, which was I got it, but my coworkers at work were like, what are you cutting?
Yeah, that sounds like a self-harm kind of thing right there.
But I have it like framed in my cubicle. But what would you guys recommend as, great thank yous to the best CPs in the world?
I give her a lot of books.
Oh, I was just going to say that.
Yeah, I just when she does something really awesome, I'll just randomly pick out one of my favorite ebooks that I know she hasn't read yet and just send it to her. Usually through Amazon, because I know she has Kindle. And she sent me some really great Christmas presents. Like, she sent me a very unique coffee mug, for example, and I don't know how to describe the other thing. Oversized flask.
Like 64 ounces oversized.
Yeah, bigger than my head, and I don't know. It was like a little inside joke, but I thought it was hilarious. So I think that sometimes the best gifts to give your CPs, if you know them as well as Maria and I know each other, are like the really quirky, weird things that you'll look at and other people will be like, why would anyone send that to you? And then you'll be like, she knows me.
Yep. And when we send our ebooks to each other, we usually like to include a snotty note or an inside joke, and that's almost as good as the book sometimes.
Yep.
That's awesome. We have a list that we compiled of favorite gifts on Whiskey, Wine, and Writing. We did it for, was it for
Christmas?
But I think they still apply, because I think my favorite mug's on there still. I love mugs or flasks. Whatever is the best thing to write with. So, actually, another cool thing I got once was a friend I met through Pitch Wars gave me something that was symbolic of her book, which was just really cool because it was like a good luck symbol in her book, and then she gave me that good luck symbol. And so whenever I look at it, I remember her book. I just, things like that. It doesn't have to be creepy, people. Just make sure that people aren't serial killers, unless you're doing research for an epic thriller and you think this is the way to go. But
yeah.
What's your favorite CP gift, Tasha? What do you like to give your favorite people who read your book?
I have no idea. I think I'm just going to have to send my whole CP group walruses now off of our little inside joke that we keep throwing back and forth. I mean, there was a whole day, literally, we had this conversation about the movie Tusk, and that's where this whole thing stems from. We literally were just throwing weird walrus gifs, or gifs, however you say it, and pictures back and forth at each other. So I think I'm just going to go buy a bunch of walrus, like mini walrus beanie babies, and then send it to them. Just so they'll always think of me when they see the walrus.
On Twitter, I asked, what is your favorite thing to give your CP, since we're all talking about it, and E.L. Wicker said, British chocolate. I need to send my CPs British chocolate, LOL.
Yes.
I really want to be your CP, E.L.
Especially since apparently, like, we're not allowed, they're cutting it off.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they were talking about how Hershey was, or somebody was suing them, and they weren't going to be allowed to have Cadbury's in the U.S. anymore, and I'm like, that's not fair. I like Cadbury. So I don't know how authentic that is, though. So
it's true. I think you're right, because I was actually at a store and they were talking about how they had the new Cadbury eggs and they all had corn syrup in them and stuff.
Yeah, because I don't know. I'm just very sad about it. So
right. Best tangent ever. But let's get back to writing. So when you guys are doing your editing, how do you choose who gets what clients? Do you both tag team the same projects? Do people apply just to you? How does that work?
On our booking form, they can pick which editor they want to work with. We have like an About Us page so they can read up on what our expertise is. Like, I'm a very YA person, whereas Maria would definitely be your go-to girl for anything romance related, since that's not really my so most of the time they pick for themselves. Sometimes, I think only once someone didn't pick, and then we talked to them and decided which one of us would be a better fit for that project.
Mm-hmm. There is an option also to have both of us do it. If someone wants 2 rounds of edits and 2 sets of eyes, that is an option as well.
Yes.
Oh, that's kind of unique. I don't think I've ever heard of another editorial service doing that.
And I was reading about how you guys came up with the name, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that for everyone too.
Yeah. You probably can't tell, but where the wild things are is over back on the wall. And then I have another poster. It's one of our favorite books when we were growing up. Just one of those weird, quirky picture books that was just about a kid that's throwing a tantrum, and he goes off to a world filled with monsters, and he's the king of them. And I just thought that was so cool when I was a kid, very imaginative kid. So we were trying to figure out names, and I don't even remember how that one ended up as an option.
I think
we must have been talking about the book, and then we're like, why not Wild Things Editing? And then it stuck.
Yeah, and we both like monsters, so.
Yeah.
Monsters are awesome.
I liked how your tagline was something like taming the manuscripts, because I mean that's really what we need when it comes to editing, is because your first draft is very rarely the draft. Goes on to do anything. It's like a big weed patch, and you have to trim that sucker down.
Yep. Taming the unruly manuscripts.
Yes. Oh, and if you haven't already found out by reading our website, whiskeywineWriting.com, these lovely ladies have decided to give a discount for whiskey, wine, and writing fans. So take advantage of that, because obviously they know what they're talking about. I mean, their credentials are just through the roof. And they like each other, too, which I think is very helpful when you're, with professional services. I don't know how many times I've gone to a place and you can just tell that the coworkers don't like each other. And then it's awkward, because you're like, should I like them? If they don't like each other, why should I like them myself?
It is really helpful. Whenever Maria and I are stuck on something, like deciding whether a certain element of a story is working or not, we can always bounce ideas off of each other too. So even though usually clients pick just one of us, they usually get at least input from both of us.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, even little things like sometimes your brain doesn't want to work and you have to ask which way the grammar goes. And it's really nice to have someone that you talk to every day and that you're able to work with, and you know that they're right when they give you an answer.
Yep.
That, I think, is the most important thing, knowing that they're right, because I'm not going to lie, guys, taking advice from people who don't know what they're talking about is never a good idea.
I think we've had that conversation since there's, generally 3 people critiquing one thing for our Sunday sessions. Sometimes everybody will say the exact same thing about a certain portion of the manuscript, and we just know. We're like, oh, yep, okay, apparently that's not working for anybody. Time to be changed.
So here's maybe a interesting, different kind of question. Because we talked about the difference between CPs and beta readers. What is the difference between a CP and an editing service if someone's trying to decide what to do at their stage in writing?
Most of the time, a critique partner, they know your story and they know you, and while they're going to be very honest if they're a good critique partner, it's also hard for them to really distance themselves enough from a project if they've read multiple versions. So that's usually when an editing service comes into play, if you have critique partners, because then the editor will have only seen this one version of the novel, so they won't know that chapter 3 is way better on this edition than the first edition, because if it's still not working, then they don't have anything to compare it to, whereas like a critique partner would be like, it's gotten so much better, and they might not see that it could get to another level. And also, with my experience in the industry, I have a better inside view on what's selling and what's not selling and how to make something more marketable. And Maria also has that experience with particularly small presses. And do you have anything else to add to that, Maria?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I mean, it's, like Kim was saying, that it's not that your critique partners are going to try to be biased, but generally if you like each other, it's I mean, even though Kim and I are really honest, it's still an unbiased set of eyes when you go to, an editing service. It's just another step removed for someone who's gonna catch little things. And again, it's like the more eyes you have, the more that's gonna get caught. And like Kim was saying, because we have that unique experience, your CP might not have been an intern at an agency, or they might not have something published. And so it's just that experience, and then it's another set of unbiased eyes.
Very cool. How important do you think it is for someone who they're trying to get to the agented stage, maybe, or the self-pub stage, or the small press stage, it is for them to get professional editing beforehand?
I think if you're going to self-publish, you must have it. It's just, if you want that book to be in the perfect condition, you need an editor, because with the agent and the small press, you're going to have an editor eventually look over your book before it's published, but when you're self-publishing, you might be amazing at grammar, but you're not going to catch everything because you know the story so well that your eyes generally see what you want to see on the page rather than what's really there. So if you're self-publishing, I feel like it's a must to at least get an editor to copy edit it beforehand. With small presses or agents or editors, if you're interested in either of them, I guess it really depends on the writer. If you have a very well-established, vast network of critique partners and writers that can read over your work, you might not need an editor. If you are more of a lone writer, which is, I would say, 80% of our clients don't really have critique partners or beta readers that they trust to read over their manuscript and give them feedback, then I think it's important that you get an editor to at least look over your manuscript before you start sending it out to agents or small press editors, because you know that story, you might not be able to be as objective as you think you need to be. And then if you have a well-established network of writers and friends, if you've been querying for a while and it's like your third book in the trenches, then you might need an editor to tell you what's not working and what you could do to be more marketable to agents or editors. So I guess it really depends on what your situation is.
We just got a comment from E.L. Wicker. She said, yes, an editor is so important. So many times I read Fractured and Mortal and my eyes refused to see the errors. I think, it's very important to have, as Kim was saying, just the other sets of eyes, and how Maria was saying, unbiased eyes are important too. My favorite mistake I ever made on a... Oh, did we lose Maria?
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
No.
I'll text her.
Okay.
That's a great thing about CPs.
My favorite error I ever made, which took until I got my Pitch Wars mentor, was, and I had a lot of people read this book before Pitch Wars. I mean, that was like my 5th revision.
I got to read it after Pitch Wars, and I loved it.
I know I've said it on here before, but I just think it's like the worst mistake I've ever made. Pastor said something and embarrassed the girl, and the girl goes, he had no idea how badly he publicly humiliated me, but publicly was spelled wrong to pubically. It's just the things like that you need those detailed eyes for.
Yeah, it's so easy to miss a word or misspell a word, and it'll be 2 letters, but because it's just you're so used to seeing that word, you don't even catch it.
Yeah, like I had that problem with, I kept meaning to write wipe, and I kept writing whip, and like my agent, I just got a set of revision notes from her, and she corrected it 3 times in my manuscript, and I kind of felt like an idiot. I was like, oh, oops.
Also, apparently, my mom is becoming an avid fan of the show because she just shared your Wild Thing edits on Facebook. Thanks, Mom!
Thank you.
Before you said something really interesting, Kim, it was something about how some people who don't have CPs or beta readers they can trust, it's perfect for them to have a editing service. What advice would you give to an author, though, who maybe wants a critique partner, but they're having trouble trusting strangers on the internet, or just letting anyone read their book at the stage they are now?
I feel like that's a concern a lot of new writers have that aren't really well familiar with the writing community. I know I had it when I first went out on the internet and started looking for beta readers and critique partners, thinking, what if I share it with this person and they steal my idea or they steal my manuscript? But in reality, I don't think that happens very often. And even if someone did get inspired by your idea, no two writer will ever actually create the same book. So I think it's a concern that is understandable, but I've never heard of a case happening. And I think it's just an important step to just trust one person and to give it to them and see what happens. And usually after that first good connection, you're more trusting of the environment. And I think like you two are part of the writing community. You know how really welcoming and nice it is on Facebook and on Twitter and all those places. And I really feel like most people are just trying to help each other, not really trying to steal ideas or anything like that.
Now, it's really hard to steal somebody's idea or actual words anyway, considering how much it's generally out and about, whether it be on the blog or with your CPs. I mean, stuff is date stamped by your word processor, whichever one you're using. You have date stamps, you have everything. So if somebody was trying to steal your idea and pitch it, all you have to do is bring up yours and be like, no, mine is date stamped. This person has a copy from way back when, this person has a copy from way back when. It would be really, really hard for you to trade manuscripts with somebody and then say, oh, I like yours better and run off with it. It's a very hard thing to do, especially with all the technology. Like maybe 50 years ago that would have been easier because it was all typewriters and everything. But yeah, but nowadays it's really, really hard to get away with plagiarism and stealing somebody's idea.
Yeah, definitely. And you can prove it through like the email exchange that you gave them the manuscript. It's very easy to prove that you had the manuscript before they did.
Right. So, I mean, even if like it was somehow deleted, IT can go in and pull up old records. Man, I thought I lost like half of Redemption at one point. Like, well, I shouldn't say that. Sorry, it wasn't Redemption. It was my Nano novel. Somehow, when I opened it back up, like half of it was gone. I was like, what just happened? My brother he's an IT guy. He's a network engineer, works for a huge company, everything like that. He was like, calm down, I'm going to find it. I'm like, how are you going to find it? He's like, trust me. I don't know how he did it. But all of a sudden, like 15 minutes later, he's like, is that it? I'm like, what?
Moral of that story is writer people, get in touch with a computer nerd in your life and become best friends with them. I married mine, and he has saved some manuscripts for me, and it's great.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it. Like, I'm okay with computers, but my brother is like Mr. Computer Genius. I was like, oh my god, I owe you so much.
And Maria's back. Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back.
My computer kicked me off.
It can be a feisty mistress. Today she's being better. But so we were just talking about advice for writers who are maybe newer to the writing community, or but don't have a critique partner yet, and they really want that relationship, but they're having trouble being nervous and trusting sending out their work. What advice would you give a new writer?
Okay. I know, I mean, kind of what we talked about before, starting small. And not necessarily sending your entire manuscript. I mean, that can make you feel better too. Or even like with one of my other CPs, we started with short stories, and then you don't feel like, you're putting your entire manuscript in someone's hands. And I know Kim and I have talked about this at length before, but your idea is really never going to be the same as anyone else's. So, I mean, even if you had some really traumatic experience, there's always documentation on your computer about you writing something earlier, or your own ideas are always going to be different than everyone else's. But I think starting small really can foster that trust before you delve into something big.
Cool. Well, we have about 5 minutes left. Oh, we have another comment. Tasha has a computer nerd too in her CP group. Me. See?
Em is amazing. Like she has so many different skill sets. It blows my mind. She's awesome.
So we have 5 minutes left. Is there anything you guys want to say, maybe to drive the point home, or something we haven't touched on yet that you think the writing community should know, especially during our CP Love Week?
I think that connecting with your critique partner on like a personal level is what is most important. Like Maria and I have very similar personalities. We're both pretty quirky, and it's very strange how in sync our mind can be at times. And I think that's just one of the best parts of finding the right critique partner, is that you know each other so well that it's just a comfortable experience. Because you never want to like dread opening an email from your critique partner. And even though you don't necessarily enjoy getting extensive feedback about, hey, you need to revise all this stuff, it's nicer when you're like, oh, I like that person though. So even though it might be a little uncomfortable, in the grand scheme of things, I'm probably going to text her in 5 minutes and talk about something else completely random.
I've lost count of how many emails Nikki and I go through a day. Maybe 5. I don't know.
And I think going along with what Kim said is, I mean, obviously if we didn't like each other, I can tell you we wouldn't still be CPs because, like she said, we're both a little weird, but we're the same kind of weird. And so, I mean, then you trust their opinion and, like, you know they're being honest. And, I mean, critique partners are invaluable. I mean, you can't just write something on your own. It's like Nikki said before, your first draft is never going to be perfect, and you have to be able to run ideas by them. It's not just reading something once. It's going through it over and over and helping you figure out that stuff in the middle of the night. Or, I mean, I know one thing that Kim and I do is we'll throw a couple of options out, and then when they pick the wrong one, we know what we really wanted. So sometimes it's just weird stuff, and you have to get to know each other and trust each other.
True.
Yes.
I do that a lot to her when she gets mad.
Yep.
I did it to me yesterday about something, and then I decided completely opposite of what she told me to do. It wasn't writing related. It was something about probably choosing what to eat that night.
It really is like a real relationship, and as we all know, those can be hard to not only maintain but to begin with. It's like dating. It's weird writer cyber dating, but it is so worth it. I don't know where I'd be without my CPs. I know I definitely appreciate them, and it's great meeting other people who enjoy the same kinds of relationships and have successful writing careers, as a result. I think it's inspiring.
It's amazing, actually, just when you get into the writing community and you just see people's relationships and how everything works and how willing everybody is to work with each other, and at the end of the day, to me, it's amazing. Like, I think I'd be totally lost had I not found the writer community and gone into the competitions and met people like Nikki and Em and Kathy and Diana and all these wonderful people. I think the biggest thing, again, is putting yourself out there and taking that risk. Even if you start small, you start big, you're not going to find a good CP partner unless you put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. Because the writing competition, Pit Mad, was what brought Maria and I together, and then hashtag the writer's voice is what got me my agent. So I think that it's just so important to be able to put yourself out there. Yeah.
Yay, contest.
Thank you.
The worst thing that happens is they say no, and yes, it stings, but you can't get a yes if you don't put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best part about having a CP too is, Lord knows writers have the most rejection to face in the world, I think. Maybe I'm just biased thinking that, and I have no idea what other jobs in the world have great levels of rejection, but it's nice to deal with the rejection with someone else who understands.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, definitely. I think it makes it a lot more manageable.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, we are at the end of the hour, guys. I want to thank you so much for being here. It's been amazing talking to you. I was already bragging about the pre-chat we were having. I'm just like, they're amazing, because you guys are. So, I can't wait. I can't talk tonight. I don't know why. I can't wait to read your stuff and get to know you guys a little bit more via Twitter, because I followed you both. And Nikki, is there anything you want to wrap up with?
Yes, everyone should head over to whiskywinewriting.com so they can read more about these ladies, find out more about In the Review, Maria's book, and the Wild Things editing service, which is fantastic, and also a fan of Whiskey, Wine, and Writing, which I think is more than to go check it out. So thank you, everyone. This was a lot of fun. So Have a good night.
Absolutely. So have a wildly creative night, and we will see you next week. Take care, guys.
Go hug your CP.